Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is June 4th, 2025, and Barcelona have reached full agreement with Joan Garcia. Also, Barcelona are now seriously considering the option of Ademola Lookman. And finally, Grimaldo has offered himself to Barcelona. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo. This is the Barca News podcast, live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but where I also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering your questions, and getting a discussion going. For those of you who be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All of this helps the channel continue to grow. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys, merchandise, hats, not just Barcelona, by the way, any team around the world, make sure to hit the Goal Kit, Skip Bag, or Fanatics. And if you want to place any sports bets, again, not just on Barcelona matches, since there aren't really any Barcelona matches right now, but on any sporting event, make sure to hit the Bet Us. All links are down below in the description. You click on them, and you get access to some pretty cool deals and offers, courtesy of Barca News. And speaking of podcasts, of course, as I announced many times already, and I'm going to continue to announce it because I have to. It's my duty. Starting Saturday, June 14th, every Saturday, I'm going to be hosting a special podcast exclusive only for the channel members, where it's going to be, an informal podcast where we can talk about anything you want. Barcelona, other teams, other players, football, other sports, whatever you guys want. We'll get to talk about it more like a hangout, right? Just on a weekend, guys chilling, girls welcome too, of course, and we can talk about whatever you guys want. This will be exclusive for the channel members. So if you're already a member, don't worry, you'll have access to it. If you're not a member yet, you still have time. Anyways, that was the longest intro in the history of intros. So I'm sure you guys are ready for the news, because you're like, Mo, STFU, please tell me what the news is. Well, here we go. As always, the first segment of news, or the first segment of the podcast, is several bits of news, starting with that Barcelona have cashed in yet another check. Now, as I reported in yesterday's video, Barcelona, or I should say Como, activated Alex Valle's release clause. So they're going to be keeping the Barcelona left back, who's no longer a Barcelona left back. He's a Como left back now. And Barcelona made 6 million euros off that operation. And now Barcelona will be making 8 million euros off the transfer of Todibo, Jean-Claire Todibo, who we've been talking about for quite some time. But now it's official, ladies and gentlemen. The 25-year-old French center back has completed his move to West Ham. Now, of course, Todibo was spent some time on loan from Nice to West Ham. He impressed in the Premier League. As such, West Ham decided to sign him, and this signing is officially complete. West Ham have paid 40 million euros to Nice for the services of Jean-Claire Todibo. And you might say, Mo, why do we care? Well, we care because Barcelona own 20% of the rights of the player. So Barcelona will officially get 8 million euros from this transfer. So 6 million euros yesterday from Alex Valle, 8 million euros today from Todibo. We're off to a good start, right? Right there, 14 million without having to lift a single finger. Now, the next bit of news, and this one did require Barcelona lifting a finger, and the news is that Barcelona have sent scouts to Ecuador. And you might say, Mo, what's in Ecuador? Well, this summer, there'll be the Copa Mitad del Mundo, which in Spanish means the Cup of Half the World. Interesting name. Sounds a little better in Spanish, but nonetheless, still sounds a little silly. Let's say it that way. I don't want to get censored. And I actually did not know this cup even existed, but this cup is organized by Independiente del Valle. Independiente del Valle is a very successful club, or most recently successful club in Ecuador. I think they went from third division in the last decade to not only first division of Ecuador football, but they went on to win the Copa Sudamericana twice, which is the equivalent of the Europa League. So imagine, in less than 10 years, they went from playing in third division to winning the equivalent of the Europa League in South America twice. And that's all thanks to their academy, because they've been very successful at developing players. And this cup is part of their initiative, where they have organized a cup called, again, Copa Mitad del Mundo, where they invite under 17 and under 18 players from all over the Americas to come play in this tournament. As you can see in the picture, which is for this 7th edition of this cup, there's going to be teams from, obviously, Ecuador, Bolivia, Peru, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Colombia, Chile. Argentina's flag is not there, but I know there's going to be clubs from there. So, of course, since there's going to be all these under 17, under 18 teams from all these different clubs from all over South America playing in this tournament, Barcelona have sent scouts in order to watch these matches and see if they can identify any potential young up-and-coming players. And, of course, my question to you is, if you do follow South American football, are you aware of any youngsters who could be playing in this tournament, who could perhaps be of interest to Barcelona? Drop a comment in the chat section or in the comment section if you're watching this when it ends. And the last bit of news is, speaking of developing young players, we do have to talk about what is happening. Why is this not working? Guys, my slides stopped working. Anyways, we do that slides. But the last bit of news is that Juliano Belletti, who will now become the Barca Athletic coach. If you don't know, he was a Juvenil A coach, or the under-19 youth team coach. He won a treble with that team during this last season. Youth Copa del Rey, Youth Champions League, and their league group. He has been promoted to become the Barca Athletic coach. And, of course, he will have now a direct line of communication, or at least that's how the club wants it to be, where Juliano Belletti is going to have a direct line of communication with Hansi Flick. Now, as I reported in a previous video, Hansi Flick wants to have a say in Barca Athletic and how they train, how they recover, how they rest, how they eat, etc. Because, of course, the Barca Athletic is a feeder team for the first team. And, well, now the club wants Juliano Belletti to have a direct line of communication to Flick, so the two coaches can coordinate together. And that way, not only we have, players developing the first team, but players developing in Barca Athletic, kind of like on the same page, same kind of trainings, diets, recovery plans, everything. And that way they can be more, I guess, better symbiotic relationship between both teams, which, of course, is only going to benefit both teams and eventually benefit, of course, the first team, because, after all, again, Barca Athletic is a direct feeder team for the first team. Anyways, that is all the news for this first segment. I do want to check something, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't know what's going on and why did this all of a sudden stopped working. So I do apologize, but as I've said many times before, this is what happens when you rely on StreamYard, which I'm getting very, very sick and tired of. But unfortunately, when I signed up for it, I stupidly signed up for a what's called a yearly subscription instead of doing it monthly. So now I'm stuck with this software with all its problems. So I should have done a monthly to monthly, tried it out. Let's see. So if you're seeing this, I apologize. I promise I will get this sorted out, and then we're going to read some comments. This is really bad. Thanks a lot, StreamYard. Thanks a lot, StreamYard. All right. I think it should be working now. I can see myself on my other screen. Oh, no. You can see my cauliflower ear. I have to cover this ear. All right. Anyways, while that's happening, while I'm trying to fix this StreamYard mess up, what is going on? Seriously. All right, we're gonna try this again. And this is June 4th. Yes. And now, wow, I can't believe this. I will never sign up for another year of this stupid software. But anyways, all right, sorry. Let's get back to this. Let's do the comment section. Then we are going to talk about Joan Garcia because, ladies and gentlemen, the agreement is signed, and I'm going to tell you what that agreement entails. All right, let's see. We do have Emmanuel says, Mo, man, I am the first on your live, so please read my comment tonight. I hope you have a great news for me tonight. I think I do have some pretty good news, so at least I think it's good news. We'll see if you guys enjoy it, but thank you for being here first, and thank you for your comment. And Lamray says, there is something about Man U fans. They always pick one player to blame every season and still expect them to play like Messi. I feel Rashford was just sick and tired of them. I don't think that problem is just a Man U problem. I think, look at Barca fans, right? Oh, it's Araujo. Oh, it's Ter Stegen. People naturally always want a scapegoat, right? And sometimes, it's just easier. It's just easier to blame one person than it is to analyze the full situation and trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? What didn't work? What did work? What went wrong? It's just easy to pick one person and just blame everything on them, right? It's human nature. So I don't think this is just Man U fans. I mean, Barcelona fans do this all the time. I mean, they blamed Araujo for the elimination against Inter Milan, which, don't get me wrong, Araujo made mistakes. We saw that he hasn't fit very well under Flick. But to say that Araujo is the guy at fault for the elimination out of the Champions League, I mean, we conceded 7 goals. You're telling me Araujo was responsible for all 7 goals? It's just human nature. People love to scapegoat. They will always love to find one guy so he could be the fault. And, unfortunately, that happens. That happens to all the teams. But with Rashford, I don't think it was so much a scapegoating problem. I think with Rashford was, it was a discipline problem. It was the fact that he didn't listen to his coaches. There was always problems. He liked the nightlife a lot. I mean, there was a lot more problems than just fans scapegoating him. I mean, so it's a little bit more complicated than that. Mike Valencia says, Scale the Mo, how's your day been? My day's been incredibly busy. I was hoping to watch the Nations League match between Germany and Portugal. I didn't get to watch it. I did see that Portugal won, so they're off to the final, and Germany got eliminated. Of course, tomorrow, France and Spain. I'm definitely going to try to make some time to watch that match because it's Dembele versus Lamine Yamal. I have to see that. Morgan says, hey, Mo, great to be on the live once again. Bisca Barca, my friend. And Wisdom, who I haven't seen in a while, says, how you doing, Mo? I'm doing great, man. Good to see you in the chat section. And then Triple X says, Mo, if Spain wins the Nations League, it'll officially become bigger than Champions League in our eyes just for the season for Ballon d'Or. Agenda's sake. Bisca Barca. Yeah, no, let's not do what Real Madrid does, where, if they win the trophy, that's the most important trophy. And if they lose a trophy, that trophy is shit, is trash, and blah, blah, blah. But I think I want to watch it just for the football spectacle. I still think the Nations League is a joke. I mean, it's a friendly trophy. They created it just so they can make more money. Because before the Nations League existed, it was just friendly matches, right? Teams would play friendly matches just so they can stay in rhythm, just so the players can keep that, connection playing together. But, they decided to replace it with the Nations League. So now they can make money by making up some fake trophy. And then, of course, the clubs are now obligated to release their players, because for friendly matches, you're not obligated. You could say no to friendly matches. But for official competitions, you have to release your players. So that's part of it, why they did it as well. But anyways, let's get back to the news. It doesn't look like my slides are going to work. I tried, but thanks a lot, StreamYard. I tried. I really did. Anyways, so I think we're going to have to do it this way. Let's see if this works. There we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we do have big news because an agreement has been fully reached between FC Barcelona and Joan Garcia. Now, yesterday, late at night, Joan Garcia was seen at a local restaurant meeting with his agents and with some family members, and it appears that during that meeting or that dinner, Joan Garcia agreed to all the terms of the contract that Barcelona had offered. As you know, Barcelona had already made an offer to Joan Garcia, an offer that was brought to him by his agent alongside many other offers from many other clubs. He took last weekend to think about it. Then eventually he gave the green light to move forward with the Barcelona offer. That's when his agents started working with Barcelona to come up with a contract. There's been a lot of drafts back and forth exchange, a lot of terms. We want this, no that, nah. Finally, both parties reach an agreement on all the terms. That all those terms were presented to the player yesterday, and yesterday the player gave the green light. He said, "Yes, I agree to all of this." So therefore, an agreement has been reached between Barcelona and Joan Garcia. Now, what does the contract look like? Well, it's gonna be a 5-year contract until 2030. So Joan Garcia can become the Barcelona goalkeeper. Now, we don't know still the figures, the exact figures. We don't know what his salary is going to look like. We don't know what his release clause was going to look like. But we do know that all the terms of the contracts have been agreed on and that the player has also agreed on it. So now what's the next step? Well, the next step is now the drafting of the official contract because, of course, until there's no official agreement, it's all just drafts. So now what's going on is the attorneys of FC Barcelona and the attorneys of Joan Garcia are now drafting the final version of the contract, reviewing it, making sure everything they agreed on is detailed in that contract. Once that final draft is finished and polished and reviewed, all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed, then the player will put pen to paper, sign the contract, and he will officially become linked with Barcelona. And that's only once the final contract version is done and the player has signed it, will Barcelona deposit the 25 million euros at La Liga offices, which then La Liga would release that to Espanyol, and Joan Garcia will become a Barcelona player. But the agreement has been reached between both parties. Joan Garcia will become a Barcelona goalkeeper, with reports stating that Deco and Flick are betting on Joan Garcia to be the number one goalkeeper of FC Barcelona. And this is, of course, huge because the big looming question is what's going to happen with Ter Stegen? Because now everything is indicating, or everything's pointing at the fact that Garcia will become the number one goalkeeper. He's young. He's 24 years old. We've seen what he can do. He was an absolute beast this past season, the best goalkeeper in La Liga. He had the most stops in La Liga. It's thanks to him that Espanyol were saved from relegation, which I know it sounds mean, but I would have rather them get relegated because I hate Espanyol. Plus, Joan Garcia would have been cheaper. Not that he's expensive, 25 million euros for the best goalkeeper in La Liga. I think it's an absolute theft. But anyways, everything is pointing at the fact that Garcia will become Barcelona's first goalkeeper, which, of course, the question will be what will happen with Marc Ter Stegen. Marc Ter Stegen, who's already said that he's not leaving, that he has a contract until 2028. But of course, he's not in a great position to say that, because if he stays and Garcia is the number one goalkeeper, it means Ter Stegen is not going to see any playing time. And of course, what do we have right around the corner is the World Cup 2026, where Ter Stegen wants to be the starting goalkeeper for Germany. And if he's not getting minutes at the club level, Germany is not going to start him, right? No national team is going to want to start a guy who hasn't played a single minute during the previous season in the biggest competition there is, which is the World Cup. So, in other words, buckle yourselves in, because we're in for a big drama at Barcelona. Not in regards to Joan Garcia. That's done. Agreement is done. He's going to be a Barcelona goalkeeper. He's going to be the number one goalkeeper. But the drama is going to be in regards to Ter Stegen, because we're going to have to see what happens. Is Barcelona going to try to push him out? Are they going to meet with him and just try to do it nicely? Like, hey, he's going to be number one. Maybe it's better for you to leave. Is Ter Stegen going to say, F you, I have a contract, I'm staying regardless, swap? We don't know. So buckle yourselves in, because we are going to have a pretty dramatic summer. And I got to say, I'm here for it. Anyways, let's get back to the chat section and we'll see what you guys are saying. And then we are going to talk about Ademola Lookman, because this news is also exciting just actually, it's all been exciting news. Todibo, 8 million euros for Barcelona. Barcelona sending scouts to South America. Who knows? Maybe we'll find our next Pedri, next Lamine, whatever. Joan Garcia, he's going to become a Barcelona player. And the next one is Lookman. So we'll talk about Lookman. So far, good news. Super Ice says, oh, wait. Sorry, Super Ice. I'll get back to you. We do have a donation from my man Shin. As always, very generous. Oh, no, that's not a donation. That's an anniversary. Member for 13 months. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, my friend. And as I announced before, don't forget, every Saturday now, a special podcast for members only starting Saturday the 14th. But Shin says, well, my Germany got eliminated today, so that sucks. But I do get to celebrate a year and 1 month with y'all. Also, it's hot here in San Antonio, so there's that too. Anyways, hope you're well, bro. Well, thank you, my friend. I'm sorry Germany was eliminated. I didn't get to see the match. But from what people were telling me, my friends who did watch it, they said the first half, it was all Germany. They were dominated. And then the second half, kind of like the substitutions that Germany did were not right. And the Portugal substitutions were much better. And then Portugal's second half were much more dominating. Again, I didn't see it. I haven't even watched the highlights. I literally finished work and right away turned the camera on and started doing the podcast. But I will watch the highlight later tonight. I'm very excited for the Spain-France game. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But I'm very, very excited for that match. And then I guess we'll see the final. Who makes it there? I mean, whoever makes it to the final against Portugal, hopefully they win. I don't like Portugal. Not because I have anything against Portugal, but because Penaldo. Because, I would hate to see Penaldo win another trophy because then we won't hear the end of it. People are like, see, Penaldo's better. No, he's not. Okay? No, he's not. Anyways, let's do more comments. We have Providencia Rodriguez says, Mo, what's going on with the UEFA fine for the way Barca classified the sale of the TV rights? I'm going to talk about it in the next video. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So if you want to hear about the UEFA fine, I'm going to talk about it in the next video. Oh, and Super Ice, I promised I would come back to you. Says, hey, Mo, I don't think we should sign that man Grim after what I had said and more. But also, I hate we not signing Nico. And I heard he might sign a new deal. I'll talk about Grimaldo in a little bit. That's coming after Lookman. But as far as Nico, it looks like the ship sailed, man. It looks like that ship sailed. King City FX says, Mo, how you doing, man? Thanks for being here again, giving us wonderful club news. I hope God bless you in every corner of your life. Thanks for doing this hard work for us. No, thank you, my friend, and thank all of you who are watching, because it's thanks to you that this channel even exists. Like I always say, if it wasn't for you, I'd be just a guy screaming at his camera. And that is probably not a healthy thing to do, to just be some random guy screaming at his camera. But anyways, Kelvin says, Nico would fit our style deeply. Wish he come, though. Let's go, Ghana. Yeah, it looks like it's not happening. I would have liked to see Nico Williams as well. I think we've seen that he would fit the style. I mean, we see it with Spain, right? Spain play a little bit, not completely the same, but they play very similar to Barcelona as opposed to Athletic Club de Bilbao, right? Spain is a lot closer to Spanish national team. When I say Spain, Spanish national team is a lot closer to how Barcelona play than Athletic Club de Bilbao is. And when Nico plays with Spain, I mean, he does really well. Plus, not only is their style more similar, also he's surrounded with better quality players. People like to say, oh, Nico's just a one-season wonder because he didn't do much this past season against Athletic Club de Bilbao. But I'm like, I mean, you always got to look at the context, right? Just picking things alone without considering the context doesn't really get you the right conclusion. And if you look at the context, he's playing in a team where his style of playing doesn't really fit. It's kind of like if you would put, I don't know, someone like Lamine in Atletico de Madrid. He's not going to flourish as much because Atletico de Madrid is a team that likes to park the bus and then like to, count on long passes on counterattacks, where Lamine thrives more in an attacking team like Barcelona. Same thing with Nico Williams. Also, look at the players he's surrounded by. No offense to players at Athletic Club de Bilbao, but the players that Nico Williams is surrounded with in Spain, in the Spanish national team, are of higher quality, many of them being Barcelona players. So I think he would have fit our style better. He would have been surrounded with many players that he grew up with, that he's played with. So I think, yeah, but unfortunately, it just looks like the ship has sailed, Street Fighter says, can we even register Joan Garcia because we are not even in the 1-to-1 rule? Well, technically, we can't register anyone right now until June 30 or July 1st when summer transfer market opens. And by then, Barcelona hope to to have achieved the 1-1 rule, right? The VIP seats that Barcelona sold the rights to in December, they made 100 million. That helped them reach the 1-1. And then an independent auditor said you cannot count that as income because the seats have not been built yet. Well, now those seats have been built. So Barcelona are hoping to go to La Liga and say, look, you said we couldn't count them because they were built. Now they're built. You should allow us to count the 100 million. Now, Barcelona is still going to have to make 15 million separately, aside from the VIP seats, to reach a 1-1. And this can come in different ways. Well, we already made 6 from Alex Valle. We already made 8 from Todibo, right? 14 down, 36 to go. That could come in the form of another player sale, maybe sponsorship, something, right? But Barcelona think that or hope that by July 1st, they would be able to reach the 1-1 rule. But even if they can't, some departures will allow Barcelona to register Joan Garcia. For example, Ansu Fati. He's very close to finalizing his move to Monaco. It's a huge salary of Barcelona's books. You could easily fit Joan Garcia's salary in the place of Ansu Fati, because I highly doubt that Barcelona offered Joan Garcia Ansu Fati's salary, because that salary is extremely, extremely high. Lenglet, if he completes his move to Atletico Madrid, which is looking like he will, that's another huge salary that Barcelona will be able to remove and instead register Joan Garcia. So the short answer is yes, they will be able to do it. Anyways, let's get back to the news. Because we do have to talk about you guys' favorite, Ademola Lookman. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona are now once again eyeing the 27-year-old Nigerian attacker. Now, you might say, Mo, what do you mean Barcelona are looking at Ademola Lookman? You were saying yesterday that Barcelona were in talks with Luis Diaz, and now you're telling us they're talking to Lookman. Well, let me explain. Yes, Barcelona were in talks with Luis Diaz. They did reach out to Luis Diaz to see if he would be interested in coming. Luis Diaz said, absolutely, I would love to play for you guys. However, you will have to reach an agreement with Liverpool. In other words, he's not willing to force his way out. If Barcelona and Liverpool can reach an agreement for the transfer, the player would be more than happy to come to Barcelona. After all, his family has said it on multiple times that it's always been Luis Diaz's dream since he was a kid to play for Barcelona. But what's the problem? Is you also, of course, need Liverpool. Yes, the player is agreeable, but you also need his club to agree to it. And right now, Liverpool have changed their stance that Luis Diaz is not for sale. They don't care about all the money Al Nassr are trying to offer them. They don't care about Barcelona's interest. They have said that Luis Diaz is not for sale. So in other words, if they would agree to sell him, it's going to be for at least the 85 million euros that they have been asking for, which, as I said in yesterday's video, despite Barcelona talking to Luis Diaz, they are not, I cannot emphasize this, they are not, N-O-T, not willing to pay the 85 million euros for Luis Diaz. I said that 20 times in yesterday's video, and the first comment, oh, I can't believe Barcelona are going to pay 85 for Luis Diaz. Bro, I just told you they're not. Anyways, sorry. Not. Okay? Barcelona are not willing to pay the 85 million for Luis Diaz. The only way Barcelona would sign Luis Diaz is if Liverpool lower their demand, which right now it's not looking like they will. So, where does that bring us? Well, it brings us to Ademola Lookman, someone that Barcelona have considered in the past. And now Barcelona think that he would be the most feasible option to bring to Barcelona. Why? Because his contract currently expires with Atalanta in the summer of 2026. That means he's entering the last year of his contract. So Barcelona believe that they could sign him for around 30, maybe 40 million euros. Which, if you ask me, to sign a guy like Lookman, someone who is a second striker who can also play on the left, also play on the right, who just finished the season having scored 20 goals and provided 7 assists. If you tell me you can sign a guy like that for around 30 million euros, I'm like, it would be absolutely negligent not to sign him. So now, right now, Lookman's stock has gone up in the eyes of Barcelona because, again, even though Luis Diaz is the favorite option, Barcelona are not willing to pay the 85 million euros, and it doesn't seem like Liverpool are willing to reduce their asking price. There's, of course, Nico Williams, where it looks like the ship has sailed because he rejected Barcelona. So now comes Lookman, and he has now racing to top spot. Not yet top spot. Luis Diaz still the top spot, but Lookman now is, well, racing towards the top spot. It could become Barcelona's favorite option to reinforce the left wing. And of course, my question to you is, would you like to see Lookman in Barcelona? I think I would. I did a reaction video. If you haven't seen it, make sure to watch it. So let me know in the chat section or in the comment section. And once again, I'll say this. Barcelona are not willing to pay the 85 million euros. Stop commenting. I can't believe Barcelona are going to pay 85. They're not. Okay? Not. Sorry. Anyways, Triple X says, I'll take Lookman over Diaz any day of the week. He's an incredible baller and way cheaper. I agree, but I think Luis Diaz is better. Don't get me wrong. Lookman is still amazing. I would love to see him in Barcelona. And for the price, I mean, it's kind of like the Joan Garcia deal, right? You cannot pass up an opportunity to sign the best goalkeeper in La Liga for 25 million euros. I mean, you're never going to see that. You know, a good goalkeeper these days goes for 60 million. And to be able to sign Joan Garcia for 25, I mean, that's a steal. Like, you better do it, right? And I feel like if it's true that Lookman can be signed for 30, 40 tops, I think it's an absolute steal, and you absolutely have to do it. Like, it would be very negligent not to sign Lookman for that low. Delmore says, hey, Mo, watch the match. Tal wasn't at all that today against Speedy Winger. Do you think we got luck missing out since the most winger in La Liga use skill and speed? Maybe. I don't know. I cannot say for sure because I haven't followed Jonathan Tah's career. I can't really say confidently that, yes, he would have been great or no, he would have been trash. And even if I do go back and watch the match between Germany and Portugal, you know, I'm a firm believer that one match does not define a player. You know, you can have 9 bad matches and have one good one, and people will watch that one good one and be like, oh, this guy's messy. Or the opposite, right? You'll have a good player who'll play 9 great matches and have one bad one, and people watch that one bad man and they're like, this guy's trash. And it's like, you know, to really determine whether a player is good or not, you have to watch them over a period of time and see how they do overall, not one bad match or one good match. I haven't really followed Jonathan Tah's career because I don't watch the Bundesliga. I'll watch it every now and then, but usually it's like, you know, the big matches like Bayern Munich versus Dortmund or something like that. But I haven't watched it enough where I can confidently say whether Jonathan Tah would have been great or whether he would have been bad. Not the Gamer says, hey, Mo, what's this news about a hefty fine? Oh, I'm talking about it in the next video. So stay tuned. Let's see. Isaac says, hey, Mo, thank God to be part of this podcast today. Watch it from Turkey. All right. I think you're the first person from Turkey to comment. So welcome, my friend. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you for commenting. And Big Flex says, hey, Mo, what about Yerme Hernandez? Could be a good option for our left wing spot. He played very similar with Lamine. Right now, the options are, you know, Luis Diaz, number 1, Rashford, and now Lookman, who has, you know, gone up and made it to the short list. So those are the options right now that Barcelona are considering. Luis Diaz is looking almost impossible, which is, I've been saying this for weeks, by the way. Every time an article would come out and be like, oh, Barcelona are signing Luis Diaz or blah, 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 and people would lose their shit. I can't believe Luis Diaz. And every time I came out here and I said, look, does Deco want Luis Diaz? Absolutely. Is it going to happen? It's not looking like it because Barcelona cannot afford the 85 million euros. But every time people say the same thing, I can't believe Barcelona going to pay the 85 million. It's like, I don't know how many more times I got to say that Barcelona cannot afford the 85 million. They cannot pay the 85 million. And watch, on this podcast, there's going to be comments once it ends. I got to believe Barcelona are going to pay. Oh, my goodness. X-Ray says, Ter Stegen had good blocks today. Again, I didn't watch it. I'm just too busy at work, but I'll definitely watch tomorrow's match between Spain and France. Kelvin says Grimaldo coming to Barca is a bad idea. What happens to Valle? No one said that Grimaldo's coming to Barcelona. But don't worry, I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. Romain says, Mo, I'm warming up to the idea of Rashford on the loan as competition, left wing, and as a backup 9. I see the concerns, but for the right price, he could be great for us. Well, the right price that Barcelona are shooting for is 0, right? Because he will be coming on loan. Barcelona are not hoping to pay anything for him, except, of course, to have to cover part of his salary, which the player has agreed or wants or is willing to agree to reduce. So that's technically what the goal is. I have concerns. Because, he's a very highly consistent player. He's a diva. We've all seen it. And now I hope, obviously, he's changed, because bringing players on loan, it's a zero risk game, right? Because if they work out, great. They work out, you sign them, everybody's happy. If they don't work out, whatever. You didn't spend any money, you send them back home packing. Send them packing. Anyways, but the problem with players like Marcus Rashford or Joao Cancelo or Joao Felix, the problem with those players is that, okay, if they work out, great. But if they don't work out, it's not like, oh, whatever, we didn't pay, let's send them back home. The problem with those players is that they are divas. And divas could still cause you problems. So there's still a risk associated with bringing a diva on loan, because a diva can cause problems in the locker room. So it's not as easy as just saying, if they don't work out, whatever, we send them home. It's also like, but what happens if during that year, when they're not going to work out, they become a distraction to other players, especially a locker room like Barcelona, where there's a lot of young, impressionable players. And we know Rashford, he likes to party. He likes to go out with models, crash his cars, DUIs. He's about that lifestyle. Well, maybe not anymore, hopefully. But that could be a distraction for other players, especially young, impressionable players. So it's not as zero risk as bringing anyone else on loan when you bring a diva, right? When you bring someone else, zero risk, because if they don't work out, whatever, you didn't pay a transfer fee. But when you bring a diva in, there is still a risk when they don't work out, because they could affect the locker room. Now, hopefully that Rashford is long gone. And now that he's older, that he's mature, hopefully he's fully focused on his career and he's put aside the extracurricular activities. If that's the case, amazing. But you can always wonder, because I don't know if you guys noticed this. The locker room under Xavi, his first season, well, his, I guess technically second season, because he did come in halfway through the season. When Barcelona won La Liga, it was a very close-knit locker room. The last season under Xavi, they weren't anymore. There's a lot of cracks in the locker room. Now, I'm not going to come here and blame it on Cancelo and Joao Felix, but it is a coincidence that the year that the locker room fractures under Xavi is the same year that we brought in 2 players that had fractured other locker rooms in other teams. So see what I mean, where it's not completely risk-free to bring in Rashford, but hopefully I'm wrong. And hopefully he's put that away, put that aside, and he's just focused on his career, and he can come to Barcelona and absolutely kill it. Because after all, that's all I want. I want every single player in Barcelona wearing the Barca jersey to be on top of their game, kill it. Because if the players are doing great, that means the team is doing great. And after all, that's what I want. I want for my team to do great. Mark says, hey, Mo, shout out from Murcia. Oh, all right, Murcia. Can't believe Dembele will probably win the Ballon d'Or now. Well, I think we still got some months to figure it out. I hope not, because like I said before, Dembele did not start playing well until January. The first half of the season, he was complete ghost. I mean, PSG fans were actually asking for Dembele to be transferred out. And there was like all kinds of headlines like, oh, what's going on here? Like we got ripped off. Like this was, terrible signing, blah, blah, blah. Like Dembele was shit the whole first half of the season. He actually got into fights with Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique wasn't even counting on him. It wasn't until January that Dembele actually became the Dembele that everybody now seems to think he was like that all the time. Where Lamine Yamal has been clutch since day one. So if the Ballon d'Or supposed to reward a player's performance throughout the whole season, it should be a pretty easy pick. Should be Lamine Yamal because he performed the whole season, not like Dembele who only performed the second half of the season. So I really hope he doesn't beat Lamine to it because I don't think he deserves it. Because so what? Now, if we're just gonna remember the last month of every season, then every player should just take a nap and wake up in May and be like, all right, time to put in work. And then bam, now you're a Ballon d'Or candidate. It's like, no, that's not how it should be. But anyways, let's do the next bit of news because we do have another player who has offered himself, and it's no other than Grimaldo. Grimaldo, the 29-year-old left back who came up through the Barcelona academy, but then ended up leaving. Had a pretty good season by Leverkusen under Xabi Alonso, but now with Xabi Alonso joining Real Madrid, and pretty much that whole team is falling apart. All of not Real Madrid are falling apart, but Bayer Leverkusen are pretty much falling apart with all Xabi Alonso's project just pretty much being disintegrated. Wirtz is leaving, Frimpong is leaving, and now Grimaldo is looking to leave, but more importantly, he's looking to go back to Spain because, of course, that's his home, and he has now offered himself to Barcelona, especially since he has contract expiring in 2027, but it's reported that he has a very low release clause. Now, we don't know exactly how much the release clause, because the thing about release clauses in La Liga, they're mandatory by law. Every player has to have a release clause. So that's why in La Liga, everybody knows everybody's release clause. It's pretty easy. In other leagues where release clauses are not required, that's something that you can negotiate with your club. So a lot of times, if the contract contains a release clause, which is not always the case, it's usually very difficult to find out because, of course, contracts are confidential. But in La Liga, release clauses are required, so it's pretty easy to find out what they are. So they're saying his release clause is around 15 million euros. So the player is offering himself to Barcelona because he wants to come back to Spain. He thinks Barcelona could afford his release clause. And of course, he says because Barcelona have always, it's his home. That's where he came out through the academy. So he has offered himself to Barcelona. Now, Barcelona are not looking to sign any fullbacks. Of course, initially that was the plan. But now with the rise of Eddie Garcia, with Flick being happy with Gerard Martin, we technically have 3 fullbacks in each position. We have Koundé, Eric, and Hector Ford on the right. We have Balde, Gerard Martin, and Joffre Torrens coming up during the summer on the left. So Barcelona are not considering signing fullbacks, but regardless of whether Barcelona consider or not, my response to Grimaldo offering himself would be, you know what, bro, go F yourself. Because only a few weeks ago, or only a few days ago, was Grimaldo going on all the Madrid media channels, like El Chiringuito, offering himself to Real Madrid, talking about how it would be a dream to play for Real Madrid, even though supposedly he's a culé, someone who came up through the academy. So as someone who came up through the academy, you don't do that. You don't go offering yourself to Real Madrid. But to make things worse, when Real Madrid told him, sorry, bro, we're actually interested in Alba Carreras, now he comes back crawling to Barcelona. So A, you don't offer yourself to Real Madrid as a Barcelona player, former Barcelona player. And B, you definitely don't come to Barcelona crawling when Real Madrid rejects you. So thankfully, Barcelona are not considering his signing. But either way, what I say to Grimaldo, you know what? Go F yourself. Anyways, let's get back to the comment section. Let's see what you guys are saying. And then remember, there's another video coming tonight. In it, the news about UEFA's fine or potential fine against Barcelona. Abbas says, Mo, what do you think about today's match? I didn't see it. I did not see it. And what do you think about the way Ronaldo fans are celebrating his winning goal? Look, Ronaldo fans are just like Madrid fans, which obviously they overlap. They're delusional. And not only delusional, but they're a symptom of a bigger problem that we have now. A problem where it seems like, or I don't know if it was always there and just we weren't aware of it because social media wasn't around, or maybe it is a new phenomenon. But there is a phenomenon among society where people just have not been taught how to deal with reality or how to deal with life. Because in life, you have ups and downs. And if you don't know how to manage the downs, you're going to have problems. And this day and age, it seems like a lot of people have a problem with handling disappointment. People just don't know how to handle disappointment. They were never taught how to handle disappointment. And that spills over to football because, of course, football fans are just normal people, right? So, what happens when a football fan who's never been taught how to deal with disappointment, what do when they face disappointment? They come up with delusional excuses. They come up with delusional justifications. Messi's not the best. The World Cup is rigged. Infantino wanted him to have the World Cup. If Ronaldo wins the Ballon d'Or, it's an amazing award. But if Messi wins it, it's a rigged award. You see the pattern, right? And Madridistas are the same. The whole same thing. Oh, it's not that Barcelona are better. It's Negreira. It's the referees. These people were never taught how to deal with life's disappointments. So instead of just saying, shit, fuck, Messi is better than my idol. That sucks, but whatever. Or, hey, Barcelona are better this season than Real Madrid. That sucks, but whatever. No. Let's find ways to cope. Let's find ways to soothe our bruised ego by coming up with stupid shit like, oh, it's rigged. It's the referees. And by the way, I say this to Barcelona fans too, because let's not forget, last season when Barcelona were shit, a lot of Barca fans were like, oh, it's rigged, it's rigged. It's like, bro, it doesn't work like that. It's either always rigged when Barcelona wins and when they lose, or it's never rigged. You don't get to say it's rigged when your team loses, oh, but it's perfectly fine when your team wins it. It doesn't work like that. You either learn how to deal with life's disappointments, or you're going to have a big problem going through life because guess what? You can't avoid it. Life brings you disappointments. GT Maestro says, my concern about Joan is whether he is good with the ball at his feet, especially with Hansi Flick's highline. I know that an ideal Barcelona keeper is a ball-playing keeper. Vizca Barça. That's a fair concern. We saw how Szczesny struggled big time until the final day of the season with the ball at his feet or coming off his line, because most goalkeepers are just not used to building up from the back because most teams don't build up from the back. It's actually a crazy idea if you think about it. To start a play from the back with your goalkeeper, it's very, very dangerous because if that goalkeeper makes the wrong pass or if that pass is read by the opposing team, I mean, you're fucked. They're going to score on you, right? So it's a pretty crazy idea. It's a pretty wild idea. So most goalkeepers are usually not used to it. So it is a fair concern. But I have to say, watching the highlights, I did the highlights video, Joan Garcia, he did have, a few highlights here and there where he did make some pretty long passes and it looked to be really good, accurate passes. So I don't know. I think it's there. And if he's not like completely developed that skill, it looks like he has the potential to develop that skill because I have seen him make several long passes very accurately. So it looks like he has what it takes. Either he already knows how to do it or he has what it takes to learn how to do it. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to struggle with that. Romain says, Mo, if Mats does leave and we assume that Joan's contract is favorable to the club, how helpful will Mats leave it be? Huge. I'll tell you why. Not so much because of the transfer fee, because even if Barcelona agreed to, like, all right, you can leave as a free agent, he has a pretty big salary. So it would be big. It would be big. Removing, obviously, it's not as big as like Ansu Fati's or Lenglet's, but it is a pretty big salary. I think if I'm not mistaken, Ter Stegen makes around 6 or 7 million euro net. So it would be a big salary to remove. And that's, of course, assuming that Barcelona wouldn't make any money off his transfer, which they could still make some extra money off the transfer. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's assuming that Ter Stegen even agrees to leave. Innocent says, hi, Mo. I don't think the goalkeeping issue is going to be a big deal. Remember, we once had Mark and Brau. No. I mean, look, it's a natural progression of things, right? Players age. We all age, unfortunately. There's nothing we could do. We haven't discovered the fountain of youth. And it's a natural thing to happen, right? It happened with Bravo and Ter Stegen, like you pointed out. Bravo was the starter. He was getting older. He was kind of like on a decline. And there comes young Ter Stegen and takes his spot. And now Ter Stegen is the new Bravo, right? He's getting older and he's on a decline. And now there's Joan Garcia, who's younger, who's going to take his place. And one day, Joan Garcia will be in his 30s and some other young kid will come and take his place, right? It's just the nature of the sport, or any sport, the nature of life. So as far as that, no, there's no issue there. But the issue is if Ter Stegen says, yeah, I have a contract and I'm not leaving. That's the issue, right? Because legally speaking, he could just stay and just run his contract and just sit on a bench and collect checks and drink margaritas and smoke cigars with Chesney. But the good thing is that the World Cup is right around the corner. So I think that could help eventually make Ter Stegen see reason and be like, all right, if I want to be the starter for Germany, I need to leave and go look for minutes somewhere else. So I think eventually he will see reason, or at least I hope he will. But if he decides not to, there's nothing we could do, right? He has a contract, and a contract protects him. Francisco says, Mo, I need Barcelona to start preseason now. I know. Every time the season ends, it's like, what do I do with my life now? Klaus, my man Klaus says 85 million is a ridiculous asking price for Diaz by Liverpool. I agree. I think Luis Diaz is a great player, and I think he would fit really well in Barcelona. And no, he's not old. I know I've brought up his age before, but I brought it up in comparison to Rafinha because I said it's not a good idea to have two wingers the same age because then they both age at the same time and they both get old at the same time and they both have to be replaced at the same time. But all of a sudden, people want to make it out to be like 28 is all of a sudden like, oh, he has to be pushed around in a wheelchair. That's not the case. 28 is prime years, prime footballing years. These are the best years in any footballer's career. So 28 is not old. And I'm not saying you said that, Klaus, but I've been seeing a lot of comments like, oh, he's 28, he's old. He's not old. He's in his prime. Like, he could give us a good 4 or 5 years of really good football. Also, he's not trash. People make it out to be, oh, he's trash. It's like, all right, just because you don't like him doesn't mean he's trash. Doesn't mean just because you don't want him to come doesn't mean he's trash. He's a good player, and he's in a good age. He's in his prime. But I agree, 85 is too much. 85 is too much. Which, again, I'll say it again, guys. Barcelona not willing to pay the 85 mil. Stop saying, I can't believe Barcelona are going to pay 85 mil. We could get Leao. No. They're not going to pay 85 mil because we cannot afford to pay 85 mil. Not for Diaz, not for Leao, not for anybody. Roger says, Mo, good night. Question, I thought Barca had to wait until the end of June to know if they have finance to sign players. How is that they are signing players before June 30th? Because Barcelona are very close on finalizing the move of Ansu Fati to Monaco. So right there, just with Ansu Fati, you remove his salary, you could easily register the salary of Joan Garcia in his place. Easily, because Ansu Fati has an incredibly high salary. I think it's like 11 or 12 million euros net. So that's 22 gross or 24 gross, I think, off Barcelona's books. And I know Joan Garcia is not going to come earning 12 million euros net. It's impossible. He's probably going to earn maybe 5 or 6 net. Let's see. Lise says, Lookman is the best fit for Barca, proven goal scorer and better dribbler than Rafinha. I mean, not the shit on Rafinha, but just saying that someone's better dribbler than him. You know what I mean? It's not saying much. But yes, no, I think Lookman would be a good, especially for the price. Because if you tell me we can sign Lookman for 30 mil, I mean, bro, I say let's start a GoFundMe and go sign him right now. Let's see. Abbas says, guys, you heard that Barcelona are not going to pay 85 million. Yes, thank you. I'm glad the point is finally coming across because I've been for weeks I keep saying the same thing and people keep commenting the same thing. I can't believe it. And by the way, that's not just Luis Diaz. Like every video I make, I'm like, all right, Barcelona are gonna do A. And people were like, the first comment, I can't believe Barcelona are not going to do 8. I was like, bro, I just told you they are. I don't know. I also noticed that a lot of people will comment without actually watching the videos. And it's very evident because they'll just look at the thumbnail or the title and they just comment based on that. And I'm like, all right, I can tell you didn't watch the video because of what you just said. Because if you watched it, you wouldn't be saying that. Which I appreciate the comment, and it helps the algorithm push the video. But a pretty, good rule in life is not to comment on videos you haven't watched. You wouldn't go to a book club to discuss a book you've never read, right? Because you're gonna sound, people are gonna be like, what the fuck is this guy doing here? It kind of works the same when you comment on videos you haven't watched, because it's clear as day that you haven't watched it. And it's like people got spotted, and people are gonna be like, okay, this guy definitely did not watch the, you wouldn't critique a film you never saw, right? So just a good rule. But hey, I appreciate the comment. I mean, again, it helps the channel. So I'm all for it. Not the Gamer says, POV, Insta, TikTok, Barca fans, when we don't sign a player, we don't need. Wait, I think I understood your comment. Johnny says, yo, Mo, I haven't been able to catch you live in the podcast lately. Even today, I just started watching. Hope you're not mad at me. I am mad at you. I'm kidding. Life is busy. I get it, my friend. But you can always watch it when it ends. But I appreciate the effort. And Mike says, Mo, is it true that Barca could still pay a fee to Dortmund if Osman wins Ballon d'Or? Yes. You'd be surprised how much Barcelona have actually ended up spending on Dembélé. Because remember, when Bartomeu was president, he used to negotiate the stupidest deals ever. I mean, I think we ended up paying for Dembélé something like 150 mil. Between all these, he used to agree like to all kind of retarded, but like, oh, if the player sneezes once, you have to give him €1 million. Oh, if the player sharts, that's 2 million. And it's like, it's crazy the contracts he used to negotiate it. I'm still convinced that he was doing that on purpose. He really was trying to just bleed the club and make it as broke as possible, to where the only option to salvage the club would be to make a public offering and, have the club be bought out. Because if that happened under him as a president, of course, he would have gotten a big chunk, a big commission. So I really do believe that Bartomeu was purposely draining the club's accounts, because nobody is that incompetent. How do you negotiate a Nike deal with punishment clauses where if you don't win this trophy, they have to pay you less money? And if you don't win that trophy, and then Nike were paying Barcelona like 30 mil a season. 30 mil. Can you imagine that? I mean, all sponsorship contract with major clubs are usually 90, 100, 110 mil per season. Nike were paying Barca 30. I mean, Nike were robbing us blind. I mean, you're talking about buying a Ferrari for like $50 kind of deal. And it's like, nobody is that incompetent. I truly believe that he was purposely bleeding the club and get it to a point where the only way you could salvage it is by selling it, and where it's no longer owned by its members, because he would have gotten a fat ass check from that deal. Shamar says, hey, Mo, for me, I think Rafinha deserves the Ballon d'Or the most. I mean, was sensational, but we can't ignore how clutch Coutinho has been the entire season. I mean, nobody can deny that. I mean, Coutinho was clutch. His numbers speak for themselves. And I'm a person who doesn't believe to adjust looking at numbers, but shit, his numbers speak very, very loudly. I mean, what is it, like 30 some goals and 20 some assists for like a 50+ goal contribution. I remember people used to come, Mo, Rafinha scored 10 goals last season. He's amazing. I'm like, nah. This season, he's amazing. Not the fucking 10 goals you were trying to convince me that we're amazing and we're Barca level. So now you can see where I was coming from, right? Because people gave me a lot of shit about my criticism for Rafinha. I hope by watching this season, you saw what I was talking about, because that's last season, he was not good. This season, he was amazing. But Rafinha or Lamine? That's a tough question. Because on one hand, Rafinha has obviously the better numbers. But on the other hand, Lamine was more impactful, right? Impactful in that Without Lamine, Rafinha wouldn't have those numbers, I think, nor Lewandowski. Um, so it's tough. It's tough, right? Because how do you judge it, right? I don't know. I think either one wins it. It will be the deserving winner. I mean, not gonna sit here and say if Rafinha wins it, it's shit. He deserves it too. It's tough, but I firmly believe that the two of them deserve it more than Dembele, not because they're Barcelona players, but because they were clutch the entire season, where Dembele was clutch half a season. So how you gonna tell me that someone who performed for half a season should win an award over someone who performed the full season? Let's see. Ebenezer says, "Hey Mo, how do you think our midfield will look like next season with Bernal's return? Who will partner Pedri if Frankie and Casado are fit? Keep up the great work." That's tough, but I think at the beginning it'll probably be Pedri and Frankie. But as Marc Bernal starts, because Marc Bernal is not just gonna jump in day one and be like amazing. He just spent a whole year recovering, so it's gonna take him some time, right? We saw Gabi; he took him some time to recover, which is something that people ignore about their stadium, by the way. People are like, oh, he went and he conceded 3 goals against Villarreal. I'm like, yeah, he just came back from a whole year being off. Any player, doesn't matter who it is, Messi, Ronaldo, Lamine, God forbid, any player who spends a whole year in injury is gonna come back the first few matches and he's gonna be shit. So Bernal is gonna take him some time. So I think at the beginning it's gonna be Pedri and Frankie. Even Frankie, right? First half of the season, he was on the bench because he had just come back from an injury too. And his was only like 4 months or 6 months, but it was not a year. So it's going to take Bernal some time. But I think once Bernal gets into full form and he's firing on all cylinders, I think it's going to be Pedri and Bernal. I think Bernal is our future boozy, like no doubt. Let's see. Joe says it was rigged. Barca won last season and it was rigged. Barca win in spite of referee's decision. Madrid wins because of the referees. This is the difference. Well, if it's rigged, it means that every trophy that Barcelona won was because they were the highest bidder. Like I always say, there's implications to the things you say. A lot of times people forget that. They just fire off. I'm just going to say something. I'm not even going to think about what the implications are of what I just said. And the implication is that if La Liga is rigged, it means the winner is the one that paid the highest bidder. So the seasons that Madrid won is because Madrid were the highest bidder. And the seasons that Barcelona won, that means they were the highest bidder. So if you believe that La Liga is truly rigged, that means everything that Barcelona won is also rigged. The same way everything Real Madrid won is also rigged. So you have a decision to make. You can say whatever you want. You can call it rigged all you want. I don't care. But you have a decision to make, thinking about the implications of what you have to say. Do you think it was always rigged? Or do you think it's never rigged? Because you can't have it both ways, like I said. When your team wins, you can't say, oh, it's not rigged. But when they lose, all of a sudden it's rigged. That's loser mentality, right? That's what losers do to excuse defeat, right? Instead of accepting defeat. Like Flick always says, we can always improve. We can always learn from our mistakes. Or you could just be the other bunch. Because you have the winning bunch, Flick, who says, no, we need to learn from mistakes. Or you could be with the loser bunch who say, oh, no, I didn't lose because of me. I lost because it's rigged, right? I didn't fail my exam because I didn't study. I failed it because the teacher hates me, right? I didn't get fired because I was a shit employee. I get fired because my manager's an asshole, right? So you choose, right? What do you want to be? You want to be the guy who learns from his mistakes or the guy that finds excuses? We do have donations. Shin, my man, says lots of folks asking how to become a member. I'll help you out. First, if you're not, hit the subscribe button. Next, click join next to the description. Then pick your level of membership. That's simple. You're welcome. Oh, thank you, my friend. Not only is Shin a member, not only does Shin donate like millions of dollars to this channel, not only Shin is like in every comment section, always watching the podcast, but now he's even helping out people recruiting members. So thank you, my friend. You are an MVP of this channel. You are the Lamine Yamal of Barca News. You are carrying this channel on your back. I'm just Pau Victor at this point. Like, I'm there on the bench. I come out the last 2 minutes, sprint a little bit, and still get to take home La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Spanish Super Cup. So thank you, my friend, for everything you do for the channel. I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. And Edwin, with his donation, says, "Hey Mo, who is the club banking on to be the main backup to Yamal next season? Scared about his minutes racking up Bisca Barca." That's a really good question. But if we bring a left winger, whether it be Lookman or Rashford or my grandma, whoever, then we have more options. Shit opens up, right? First, we have Ferran, which God bless his heart. But hey, we've seen that he's a super sub. He's good at coming off the bench. So we can always have Ferran coming in and playing. Even though I do think Ferran is better as a false nine than as a right winger. But hey, if you got no other options, you need to rest Lamine, bring in Ferran. And you have Rafinha, right? Because now you have a left winger who can cover the left, and Lamine needs some rest. Boom, move Rafinha over to the right. Now he can cover him, right? Or if we bring someone like Lookman, hey, Lookman can play on both sides. So Lamine needs some rest, move Lookman over to the right, and have Rafinha on the left. Or keep Lookman on the left and have Rafinha move over to the right. So there's some options. There's some options. Obviously, none of them are Lamine status, but I mean, you're not going to find another Lamine because he's a generational talent. But there are options. There are options. There are options. All right, let's see. Where do we live off? Ahmad says, can we sign Jokic in July or August? No. No Jokic. Another thing I've said on budget time that people keep asking me about. There's no plans to sign a center forward this summer. No plans. Barcelona does not have the money to go spend on a left winger and on a center forward, especially when we already have a center forward named Robert Lewandowski, who just scored 42 goals. So as much as people want to say his finish is old and he sucks, 42 goals. There are center forwards in their prime who can't even reach 30, let alone 42 goals at 36 years old. And especially when you take into consideration that this same center forward that just scored your 42 goals has the highest salary on the team. So no, there's no money to bring in another center forward, especially when you have one, and especially when you cannot afford to sign another one, and definitely cannot afford to pay the salary of another one because the one that you already have earns a lot of money. So no plans to sign center forwards. And even if there was a plan, we cannot afford the 75 million euros that they're asking for Jokic. Which brings me to a previous point. This is why Barcelona are not planning on paying 85 million for Luis Diaz. All right, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your generous donations, your likes, your comments, your subscriptions. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. If you haven't dropped a comment yet, make sure you do. I want to hear you guys' thoughts about all the news to share with you. If you haven't hit the like button, also make sure you do. And always, always remember, Barcelona are not willing to pay 85 million euros for Luis Diaz. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video. And as always, Visca.